Hey everyone! Today's video is about a new kind of strategy I've been testing out recently, and it is based on the order book. It basically looks for large gaps in the order book at pretty high distances, and then waits there with a limit order based on the depth shots algorithms. I mean, this is just a test so far, and once I have really tried it out and implemented with higher order sizes, I'll let you know how that went, possibly even in the next video after this one, but the test results are worth looking at nonetheless. The idea for this strategy came about as a result of discussion with other guys, and also from the fact that I made a couple of videos, very in-depth videos about depth shots, and then I sort of abandoned them. I started trading with only regular shots. So here we go. Let's see how that implementation works. This is the basic setup that I threw together in about 20 or 30 minutes. Interestingly, there are no whitelists or blacklists, there's only a market, USDT, and that's it. The first important filter that I have here, apart from the price tab and the mark price, is the symbol 24-hour volume, and I decided to start at 1 million. With coins that trade under 1 million, you have no idea what's going there in the order books, and they're empty by default pretty much. And I go up to 1 billion, whatever the top cap at this point doesn't really matter. And then I have my algorithm parameters, no other filters included. See, the current parameters are as follows: 40k of volume to look for in the order book between the distances of 1.35 up to 8%. With a buffer of 9,000 and with these types of percentages buffer. A very important point here is to have this stop out of range box checked. If you don't check this and you don't have any whitelists here, you'll get flooded with hundreds of orders and get banned by the exchange first of all through too many API requests, and then your core just wouldn't be able to take that many orders, especially with depth shots that are pretty hungry in terms of computing power. So it is important to get this setup exactly right. The rest of the setup is pretty straightforward. I've got my test orders of 15 USDT, I've got my take profit at 1.5 to sort of reflect the minimum distance I have here. And then I have a auto price down, going down 0.1% every second, and a stop loss of 0.6 with trailing of 0.3. Nothing special at all about this. If you look down here, you can see that the algorithm is trying to place a lot of orders, but the order book is out of range. And that's exactly how we keep down the number of active orders. Currently, we have 14 of them. Well, let's look at a few of them. Here's one. It's at 1.5, so it's pretty close. Now, if we try other coins, you'll see different distances. This one is at 4.2. Well, maybe. You have to be patient actually with this kind of strategy, because trades do not happen all that often, but when they do happen, you get a pretty good take. Which brings us actually to the reports and why I think this strategy is worth talking about. Here is the reporting for a span of about 2 weeks. And as you can see, the ROI is 34.45%. Now that's pretty cool. That would be a very profitable strategy with higher order sizes. Now on the sell side, I turned it off pretty quickly because it started off really bad. But on the buy side, everything's pretty fine, and the ROE is 45.7. As you can see by algorithm names, I tried various combinations of the quoted asset volume and buffer and so forth. The most successful one was 30 and 8, but then it really depends on what the market is doing at the time. It's important to play around with these numbers based on market conditions. So as you can see right now, in the algorithm I have 40k from 1.35 in distance with a buffer of 9, and it gets me 14 orders. if I were to go back to the setup that worked pretty well, which is 30K, starting at 1.5 with a buffer of 8, let's see how many orders I get. 7. I get 7, so that's half the orders that I was getting with a bit higher quoted asset volume and a bit lower distance. So you can regulate how many orders you get. And again, with 7 orders, it takes patience. But let me give you some visuals. I've been talking for so long. Let's see what the actual shots look like. This is the latest one, and it's not really typical of this strategy because it placed an order right in the middle of some crazy levels of volatility, and it took a profit. But what it looks like more often than not is this. I was surprised when I reviewed the results at first. I mean, the orders were hovering at just the right distance, and the position was open just at the very tip of the shot, like right here. You can see the size of the shot is 1.98, and right at the very tip, the position was opened with a reasonable take. We can look further. Here we've got the same, opened at the very tip, and then took a pretty big take. I mean, we can go down the list. Here, very tip, and the take profit was 1.5%. We'll skip the loss because I'll talk about them a bit later. What are we looking at here? Again, looks pretty decent. And what kind of distance we have here? It's 2.45. So if you had your regular shots, it would be not as precise as this. Remember, one of those was at 1.9. This one is at 2.4. So this variability that the depth shots provide is pretty useful. Now this one here, also quite nice. This. So it skipped the first one. And then I believe the order book got a little bit empty right here. So I got my order and immediately, well, after just 3 seconds, it got its take profit and it stopped. This is very surprising and promising to me. Getting those shots really at the very tip and getting the most out of your take profit. This one was again 1.5. Now let's look at the losses. There are basically 2 scenarios where this doesn't work. This is where the shot does not roll back, and this one is not really a straight shot. It just goes at a slant like this here, and then does not come back to the level that I need it to, and closes here. Oh well. It's a loss of 0.7%. If you have your take at 1.5, a loss of 0.7 is not all that bad. And then another scenario looks like this, where you get one shot and then you get another shot with your stop loss squeezed. This is a bit more painful at minus 1.4%, and I still need to think of ways to either back this up with something or somehow avoid these types of shots. I mean, here, if we waited long enough, we would have gotten our take profit, but then the room for stop loss would need to be quite huge, 2.6% with a leverage of 20. It's quite possible, but it's unsafe. Look, now we're down to just 2 orders, and that's the reason I want to play around with these numbers here. Let's put it back at 40K with a buffer of, well, let's go with 10. See how many we get. 11, 13. Yeah, that's better. Of course, I did a whole bunch of analysis of the reports, and let me give you a few findings. First of all, out of the 215 test trades, most of them happened between the distances of 1.5 and 4, 199 of them. Here, anything above 4%, not a lot is happening. We've got an ROE of 6 and only 1 USDT in profit. Next, in terms of coin suitability, I checked different 24-hour volume ranges and found that this particular setup works best between 1 and 9 million in daily volume. This is where we get the most ROE, 44%. Above that, it's not really all that well. Now let's see what we have in terms of coins and consistency. I've got about 64 coins altogether that fitted the criteria at one point or another, and about 20 of them have been losing, and losing pretty consistently across different time frames. And then there are those that were marginally profitable or really profitable, like these here. I've sliced the 2 weeks into 5-day periods, and the results for them are pretty consistent. About 2, here it's just 1. And then I try to exclude the coins that did badly. For that I have this blacklist filter, so if we look only at the blacklisted coins, they're not doing well, and they're consistently not doing well, except for this period here, which is neither here nor there. But then if you take them out and you go only whitelist, this paints a pretty good picture, and it is consistent across periods, 2, 5, 4. So a decision had to be made. If I were to implement this in real life, there are a couple of considerations. First of all, do I blacklist the coins that do not work? Or, on the other hand, do I limit the volume range to the one that worked the best? Or do a combination of the two? Here, if I limited the coins to those trading up to 9 million, I'd get an ROE of 44 instead of 24. And here, if I went with the whitelist only, I'd get 79%. If I were to combine them, weirdly enough, I get lower ROE, just 61. That is because the whitelisted coins, even at larger volume ranges, are still profitable. So for real life, I'm going with still no 24-hour volume filters, but I'm adding the blacklist into my algorithm so that we don't touch these coins at all. Now as I go to implement this on higher order sizes, there are a few tweaks and concerns that I have. First of all, I want to tweak the take profit. Here I've just put 1.5, but I want to go historic and maybe do something like 80% here. Let's see how that works. And the order price down, I want to make it go down faster. Here in this footage you see that it went down so slow that it didn't take the most out of the shot. Maybe I'll do something about the trailing stop. Sometimes it saved the day and sometimes it made things worse. Most importantly, of course, I'll paste my blacklist here, and just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna introduce the active markets filter. I'll leave this at 20, that seems reasonable, and then for the filter parameter here, it doesn't really matter because you get low number of orders anyway, so this is just to prevent it from ever going above 20. And the concern that I have is about the 24-hour volume. Here I started at 1 million, and the reports showed that it works best between 1 and 9 million, like lower volume coins. If I were to put larger order sizes here, would they actually be filled? 15 USDT, not a big deal. But if I put 1K or 1.5K, will there be enough liquidity in the order book to fill those types of orders? We'll look at it next time. So in summary, based on the reports and on the way the trades look, this is quite a promising strategy. It is stable, it has been consistent across different time frames, and I'm looking forward to actual high volume trading results. So if you want to see how this works in real life with bigger order sizes and whether the tweaks to the algorithm that I've just came up with actually worked, subscribe to the channel, post your comments, click the bells, join my Telegram chat, do all of these good things, and I'll keep doing quality content for you. See you soon.